I think what's noticeable now is that a lot of people do feel that somehow they can't use the ideas of progress, prosperity, development in quite the way we used to be able to, feeling confident that we were moving forward in some positive rather than negative kind of way. We are so dominated by work now that we hardly take more than short breaks that are very environmentally damaging by way of holidays. We fly to far-flung places in order to get some quality time, as we put it. In order to de-stress, we go to various spas and have therapy. We take sharp exercise sessions in the gym instead of, because we haven't the time and we haven't always the facilities to walk or to bike to work and so on. So there's this way in which the consumer culture is now selling us back the things that we would have done for ourselves, the services or provisions we would have provided for ourselves had we not been so head down working so short of time because we're so driven by the work ethic.
Climate change itself wouldn't be that bad. We've had climate change in the past, perhaps not always quite as rapid as now, but the real problem is that we've kind of changed the landscapes in ways that have made it much less able to react to it or to adapt to these climate changes, because we have fragmented habitats in ways that make it very difficult for species to move if the climate changes. And of course, industrial agriculture is sort of leading to habitat loss on a very, very massive scale, and people don't really see that very much. I think actually there's a big issue of perception again, because we tend to see agricultural landscapes as natural. I mean, the farm is sort of an idyllic space. That, I think, leads many people to overlook the actual nature of farming nowadays. If you watch advertisements for butter or milk or any sort of agricultural products, they will always show you like this nice idyllic farm. And this has nothing to do with the way in which agriculture actually nowadays works. The environmental impact of agriculture nowadays is in many ways much more devastating than industrial production.
One of the things that I've been doing lately with my students is we've been talking about food and about the representation of food and how we represent food. And I think that one of the reasons it's interesting to think about this is that this is one of those areas where the environment comes very close to us, right? I mean, it becomes part of us, and that this boundary between the human and what's outside of the human is really erased as we take things into our body. And the challenge is for them to think about where food comes from, and to think about how it's grown, how it's raised, and to confront sometimes uncomfortable questions about the ethics of some of these things. The problem itself is that there's a disconnect between how people live and a recognition that they're dependent on the physical world, on the physical environment, that there's not an awareness of where water comes from, of where food comes from, of the many ways that we're connected with the world and with each other. That there's the choices that I make when I go to the gasoline pump or the grocery store have impacts for people not only where I live, but on people around the globe. And I think that this is probably the greatest challenge for us in our time is to better understand the ways that we're connected with the world, both the human and the non-human world.
The global is not one abstract idea. It is hundreds of thousands, millions of individual situations here and there. And so there's a need for both small stories and big stories. And the challenge then, I think, where the environmental humanities really needs to work is tying these two levels together.